And welcome back to Talkin Baseball here on WCWP. Mike Tramatozzi, Mike DeJoy, and Corey Sobel with you. Right now we're spring training's underway, so it's time to start looking at the forecast for the 2009 season. We're going to start that with the National League East and particularly the New York Mets. We welcome in Adam Rubin of the New York Daily News. Adam, how you doing tonight, man?
Very good, guys. Thanks for having me. We're only actually a week away from Grapefruit League games. Next Wednesday is the first game here in St. Lucie, for the Mets at least.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. First question off the bat, obviously, coming off a second straight collapse, Jerry Manuel talking about how the change to Citi Field could be a good thing to erase the memories of the last couple of years. You make the moves in the offseason to improve the bullpen. What would you, A, grade the Mets offseason, and B, what is the feeling around this team heading into spring training?
Well, I know that fans are clamoring for Manny Ramirez or another bat. Essentially, the lineup itself, other than Jerry Manuel tinkering with the order and putting Luis Castillo probably 1 and Jose Reyes 3 and Beltran 2, the lineup is essentially the same as last year. The only changes are Alex Cora for Damian Easley and probably Jeremy Reed as the backup outfielder instead of Endy Chavez. But obviously the work done on the bullpen was what was needed to be done. Duaner Sanchez and Pedro Feliciano are back, but otherwise it's pretty much an entirely new look. The Mets blew 29 saves last year. Obviously now we all know about K-Rod and Putz, but I think the seventh inning guy, it sounds like the lead is going to be Sean Green, who also came in that trade with the Mariners. So it's a very different look, and I think the Mets feel by addressing the bullpen they've addressed their major deficiency.
Mike mentioned the collapse over the past 2 years, and we know 2 years ago wasn't Manuel, but how long of a leash is Jerry Manuel going to have in the beginning of the season?
Well, I mean, Jerry just got a 2-year contract with an option for a third year. He's not going anywhere. I wouldn't imagine even after year one, if they don't make the playoffs, he's going anywhere. There's a 2-year deal, and I'm sure he'll be given, or I would highly suspect unless something crazy happened, they would be given those 2 years. This is on the players now. They brought in K-Rod and Putz. You have Wright and Beltran, Delgado and Reyes. Delgado is the one who really needs to step up right now. He obviously had his option picked up for $12 million. He had a $4 million buyout, but he's a free agent after this year. If he wants to remain in New York, he's going to have to step up here. And then, there's a lot of question marks, though. You look at left field with Daniel Murphy and Tatis, a platoon. Luis Castillo showed up today at camp. He's down from, he said he reported at 210 pounds last year. This year he's reporting at 193 pounds. So, but who knows what you're going to get from him? Who knows what you're going to get from the catcher? So there are a lot of issues with the Mets, but it's on the players, not Jerry Manuel, I think, at this point.
What's the word with Fernando Martinez? That I believe he's going to start in the AAA. When do you expect to see him in the major leagues this coming season?
Well, Fernando's issue is he's got to stay healthy. He's only played about 145 games combined the last 2 years at AA. This past year at Binghamton, it was because he had a right hamstring problem that kept flaring up. Year before, he had a broken bone in the base of his hand that required surgery. He did have a good winter and winter ball, but again, injury crops up. He's throwing in the Caribbean Series, warming up before a game, started to get elbow inflammation. I think it's a strain. He's shut down right now from throwing. He actually came to camp today and was cleared to at least hit, but he can't pick up a baseball for a couple more weeks. He wasn't going to make the team out of spring training anyway, I think, as you alluded to. The Mets have so many lefty bats in the outfield, and although Martinez throws right, he bats left. So probably going to start the year at AAA Buffalo with Church and right and Beltran in center. If there's no injury, I'm not sure when we'd see him if Murphy and Tatis are doing the job. If Murphy falters, Murphy gets hurt, or they need to, let's say, move Murphy to first base or second base or whatever for whatever crazy scenario, I can see them calling out Fernando Martinez. But it's probably something that we don't see until the second half of the year, if at all.
Talking with Adam Rubin, the New York Daily News, we mentioned how the bullpen was helped with K-Rod and Putz and even Sean Green, who is a very good late inning guy, mid to late inning. But the rotation obviously is Johan Santana 1 and either Pelfrey or Maine 2-3. But the back end of the rotation, the 4 and the 5 spot, how do you see that playing out? I know they have a bunch of guys. They like Freddie Garcia and they have Oliver Perez back, obviously. Does John Neese get a shot? How does the back end of that rotation, specifically for the 5th spot, shake out for the Mets in spring?
Sure. Well, before we get to the fifth for a second, the nice thing about dealing with Jerry Manuel and Dan Worth and the pitching coaches, they're very upfront. The rotation for the first 4 games of the season, unless there's an injury, is going to be Santana 1. It's going to be Pelfrey 2, Oliver Perez 3. The last game is Cincinnati. Then they go to Florida, and Maine is the first game of Florida, game 4. Now, that doesn't mean John Maine's the 4th starter. All it means is that they want Pelfrey to go against Cincinnati and Maine to go against Florida, because Pelfrey's numbers against the Marlins are horrendous and Maine's numbers against the Reds are horrendous. So that gives you the top 4. Now, of the other guys, the only guy with a guaranteed contract for the 5th starter spot is Tim Redding, but Freddie Garcia is in here on a minor league deal. But the Mets have already really budgeted his money that he's going to make the team. If he's healthy, Freddie Garcia is going to be the 5th starter. Now, the big question is Freddie Garcia going to be healthy? He pitched 3 games for the Tigers at the end of last year after coming back from the shoulder surgery, but then he goes to winter ball. He has inflammation again. If I were betting right now, I'd say Garcia's the 5th starter, Redding's in the bullpen, and Nice is starting the year with Parnell in AAA. But that's all contingent upon Garcia being healthy. If Garcia is not healthy, it's a big competition, I'd say, between Nice and Redding, with Redding having the edge if they're equivalent performances, because Nice could go to AAA. If Nice beats out Redding in that scenario, Redding goes to the bullpen as a long reliever.
You mentioned all these possibilities for the 5th starter spot. If there is an injury in spring training and Pedro does well in the World Baseball Classic, is there any chance they offer him maybe a minor league deal?
I think the Mets have kind of closed the door on Pedro Martinez. I think it would, at this point, take a lot of injuries or underperformances. I didn't even mention Livan Hernandez being in camp. Now, Livan was only throwing 79 to 83 last year, and if he wants to, I could foresee him going to AAA to start the year. But I think you'd need John needs to be horrendous in spring training. I think you'd need Freddie Garcia to be hurt, and probably Livan Hernandez being terrible too before it's even remotely a consideration. I think the Mets have kind of turned the page on Pedro Martinez. His 4-year, $53 million contract's up. He's been injury prone, and I think they want to kind of move on from that. Just like an era ago, so to speak, they kind of moved on from Mike Piazza when it was time.